is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
Oh, Mickey can't wait to get into this edition of Mick Shots. Everson Walls, let me tell you, we're going to have to dive right in because, as you know, it is Super Bowl week. And Mickey sent me an email yesterday that goes, it was basically two emails in one. It's got so many topics. He wants to talk about whether it's Super Bowl, whether it's quarterbacks being traded in this league, no matter whether it's Missouri basketball. No, he won't get into Missouri.
No, we're not getting into Missouri basketball. No.
But and so Mickey wants the floor to start off, okay, Everson. But let's give you the floor first because Mickey doesn't have the floor right now. Mickey, Everson, what's on your mind? Yes.
My platform today. First of all, welcome to Black History Month, guys.
There you go. Very good.
So glad to have you here. I was gonna take over the show. And I think Spags knew that. That's why he sent you that list of subjects and didn't send me Jack. I don't even know what the heck we're going to talk about today, but I do know I want to welcome you guys to Black History Month. Every show this month, I'm going to have a black something on. Even if it's just me, it's going to be black something. So that's what we're going to deal with.
You can't see me, Everson, but I got a black pullover on.
Guys. Take it away, Spags. Do your thing, brother.
Everson, you can't see me, but I've got a black pullover on today.
So nice. Welcome to the club.
I'll wear it every show this month and even beyond this month.
Just the color Mickey, black. That's
so
my
my blue doesn't count, right? I needed to be in black today.
Blue does not count. There are some blue black people in this world, but no, your blue does not count.
And there's some black and blue people in this world, too.
There you go.
All right.
And I can think of about...
All right, Mickey.
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
Well, you had a couple of topics, too, so we got a lot of ground to cover, right?
Yes, exactly right. All right, let's. How about we start with the news of the day yesterday? Get it out of the way to start with, because everything else is kind of Super Bowl and NFL related. But Jason Witten has landed a new job. And how many are surprised that we aren't surprised. I'm not surprised it is a coaching job, and I'm not surprised that it's at the high school level, too, at Liberty Christian School in Argyle, which is located north of Fort Worth in Denton County, I think. So it's right here in the Metroplex for those of you who don't live in North Texas. And his four kids all go to school there. I don't know if the youngest is old enough to go to school yet, but I think the oldest boy is in 7th or 8th grade.
8th.
And so he's the varsity head football coach. 8th grade?
Yes.
And he's the varsity head football coach at Liberty Christian. So congratulations to him to start things off.
Liberty Christian is about, I'm going to say 5 miles or so from where I live. And I'll tell you what, for a private school, they've got some of the nicest facilities that I think I've seen at a school of that size. So there's some money in that school, believe me. And they used to be really good in the TAPS. They've fallen off these last couple of years, but they used to be.
Well, they're about to get good again.
Yes, yeah. and you know what? And I think most people on this missed the boat on, well, why would he want to coach in high school? Well, why not? Number one, that's where his kids are. Number two, I'm thinking if you're a high school coach, you have more effect on young people than you would in the NFL or even in college at these days, right? Next, now he doesn't have to recruit. You go to college, you spend the whole year recruiting. Now, he may recruit at a private school. I'm not going to dismiss that possibility.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they recruit at private schools, Spag.
Right, but
let's just unveil that right now.
His name will do all the recruiting he needs.
There
exactly.
you go.
He won't
there
have to do any recruiting. His name will recruit for him.
And then you coach in college, boy, that's a long haul year for you. And in the NFL, does he want to show up at 6 or 7 in the morning and work till 10 at night as an assistant tight ends coach? I don't think so. So I think he's gone to where kind of his family roots are. His grandfather was a head high school coach. His brother's high school head coach. And I just think it's a natural thing. If you're going to have a family and you have 4 kids that are that young, you probably want to be around them because you probably weren't around them as much as you wanted to when you were playing. I just think it's a perfect fit.
I agree, Spags. That's one of the things that we talked about. You recall when we first, contemplated Witten leaving the NFL. We talked about Tennessee, like him going back to the University of Tennessee. I never thought that would be a good fit for him. I think I even expressed it at the time that you guys brought it up. It's tough, like you said, moving the kids, moving the family from a place in Dallas where you have been for a long time and where you've made your name. Why not stay in this area? And once again, Spags, you did all this playing. You did 17, 18 years. Then you end up going to Vegas, just trying to squeeze out one more year to see what that team could do, what kind of promise they would have. And, that's enough. I'm sure his wife and his family were very grateful to know that he was not going to leave the state of Texas, because I think as far as his family is concerned, they don't know much about Tennessee. I know they have, I'm sure, family there. He's got his legacy there in regards to college. But when it comes to his professional career, this is where Jason Witten has made his home, and this is where his family's feeling comfortable. His name will bring in as much notoriety to Liberty High School that it can. It's going to be an amazing. Like I said, why leave the area? I think he can influence so many high school kids much more than he could some college kids.
And let me throw in a couple of other things on this, and we'll move on to what's on Mickey's long list here. Sean Payton, when he had his exile under suspension from the New Orleans Saints. His kids went to Liberty Christian here in Argyle, and he was a volunteer coach during that season. While the NFL season was going on, that is where Sean Payton spent his time during that season with his kids. He was helping coach the football team that year. And the other thing is, keep in mind Doug Peterson and his resume after playing in the National Football League. He retired at age 37. He went back home to Shreveport, Louisiana, and it was an upstart private school, Calvary Baptist Academy. He was the head coach there right after retiring from the NFL for 4 years. Did that for 4 years, and then was hired by Andy Reid as an assistant coach in 2009 with the Eagles, followed him to Kansas City, and by 2015 he was a head coach in the National Football League, and a couple of years later he wins the Super Bowl as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. So just because Jason Witten is coaching at the high school level right now, a few years from now we'll see. It doesn't rule out. In fact, it can be a perfect situation for him to, from a family standpoint, and stay in coaching. And even if it's at the high school level, there are things you are learning to do as a coach and managing people that will prepare him for any head coaching jobs at a higher level that he might want to pursue in the future. All right.
Yeah,
Mickey,
and
where do you want to go to on your
Bill,
list?
I was going to also add, there's been a couple other former Cowboy players go into high school coaching. George Teague is still doing it, right?
Yep.
George is more like an athletic director at JP2.
Right. And then, Bill Bates did it also in Florida when he went back in Jacksonville. As a matter of fact, he wasn't the head coach, but he was a coach there when Tim Tebow was at his high school, by the way.
Yep.
That's true. That's very true, Spags. I happen to know a little bit about that. Let's not forget about Deion Sanders, guys.
Deion now,
coaching his own son at his high school. Now he's at Jackson State, and he's doing. That's going to be amazing for the SWAC, for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. But let's just be real. Deion ain't trying to stay at Jackson State. We know where Deion wants to go. So let's just be real about that. But I do appreciate him for the time that he's going to spend at the HBCUs, because the SWAC and all HBCUs could clearly use that type of influence, that type of notoriety to help bring a little bit more, a little bit more money and exposure to the HBCUs.
Yeah, and the timing of that, he waited. His kids are now college age, and so he got
his son is going to play for him at Jackson State.
And then when the Florida State job opens, he'll follow him to Florida State. Is that the idea?
I believe that is. I believe that is.
If Florida State wants his son, right?
That's right.
Deion say it's a package deal.
It's a package deal. This is the reverse package deal, right? The son gets signs and brings dad along.
And by the way, another recent Cowboys player, John Kitna, is coaching at the high school ranks. He's now at Burleson Centennial and coached his son, who, by the way, is going to the University of Florida, I believe, to play quarterback. Anyway, and he's got about 4 sons that are all athletes. Got more coming up in the ranks there. All right,
so Mickey,
Bill, let's turn our attention to your list.
Let's do this. Let's kind of talk about the big trade, the quarterback shuffle, with Matthew Stafford going to the Rams and Goff going to the Lions in that trade. Anybody surprised by that? I think the only thing I was surprised is how much Detroit got for trading Matthew Stafford. Not only a starting quarterback, but 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick.
Does that let you know just how disappointed the coaches were in Jared Goff playing with the Rams? I mean, even though he tried his best to go in that playoff game, he was a little bit hobbled with the thumb on his throwing hand. I think it's clear that the playoff game had nothing to do with them releasing or at least trading for Matthew Stafford, because Jared Goff at one point during the season, I'd say about halfway during the season, the Rams were looking good. They were the favorites to win the NFC, even over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they were even talking about how this team's offense was doing just as efficient as Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. So early on, even after they signed Jared Goff to a big contract, if I'm not mistaken, and then for him to lose favor like that, to me, I'm not surprised that they got rid of him, but that not only did they give up a lot, I'm also surprised that they would get rid of him so soon. It was just last year they shored this guy up, with some good money, thinking that this was going to be the favorites to go to the Super Bowl, with the coach being an amazing coach, having their resurgence as a player. All of a sudden, he's out just like that, with this amazing, amazing defense that he has to play alongside with. He was clearly a disappointment, and I'm sure somebody like a Dak Prescott, what do you think Dak Prescott's thinking right now?
Well, I'll tell you.
What do you think he's saying?
Well, I'll tell you what the Cowboys are thinking, and this is what people out there, I wrote about it on Friday. It's like, well, why haven't the Cowboys signed Dak? Just sign him. He deserves the money. The Cowboys know he deserves the money, but these quarterback deals are really fickle sometimes, right? And they're tedious. And you better be right. And not only right, but you got to structure it right, too. Because there was a cost to both teams to do this switcheroo, if you look at the ramifications of the salary cap. Now, I understand that the Rams wanted to dump salary cap money, but they also inherited salary cap structure by releasing Jared Goff at such an early time. They incurred to do this. Now, I had gone back and looked. If they had just released Jared Goff they would have incurred $65 million in dead money. As it stands, because they traded him, and so they got rid of some of the guaranteed base salaries, they incurred $22.2 million in dead money. And by trading for Stafford, they inherited his contract. Now, this can be reworked, and they've got time because none of this is official till March 17th. But they also, if they just inherit his contract for the next 2 years, it's $19 million in base money. So that means almost $42 million they stuffed into a salary cap that they don't have room for. So they're going to have to work on doing either a rework contract or signing him to an extension, which is going to put more money into their salary cap. And the same thing for Detroit. They suffered $19 million in dead money. Now, his cap number was $33 million this year, Stafford's was. So they saved a little bit money there, but they also have $19 million in dead money. So I know when teams say, well, we saved this and this. I don't care what you saved. You just spent $19 million to unload your quarterback for a quarterback that the Rams didn't want anymore. So I don't know how you guys look at this, but the Rams, assuming that nothing changes with Stafford's contract, they're going to be $30 million over the cap. And they've got to start doing some cutting before March 17th. So my point is, this is why the Cowboys look at Dak's contract and go, okay, we got to be careful here. We can't just be cavalierly throwing around all this money because you never know with these quarterbacks. And boy, it'll bite you if you're wrong. And even if you're right, it's going to bite you somewhere else against the salary cap. So that is why this is taking so long for the Cowboys to figure out. Now, maybe Anheuser-Busch has just helped the Cowboys by signing Dak to a new endorsement contract I see is being reported, right? That's got to be worth something, right? Maybe he doesn't need as much money on his football contract.
So that's why Anheuser-Busch is not doing any commercials at the Super Bowl.
They had to pay Dak,
spend
right?
all that money on Dak.
They have to save their money. They have to save their money for the future contracts. Hey, so Spags, all right. This is gonna be my wall shot right here because this is just what the NFL deserves. You know, I was a union rep. We fought for players to get all the money that they need and that the teams can afford to pay you. But what happened along with the union trying to make its rise up was all these smart agents who, were drafting these quarterbacks, the Lee Steinbergs, all of those guys who really start to influence the league a lot with their clients and the signings that those clients began to receive. I think quarterbacks are extremely overrated and overhyped pretty much on every team in the NFL. Not only are they overhyped in regards to the league, I think we give them too much preference in regards to what is supposed to be a team game. And I'm getting a little pissed off when all we hear about is, okay, Super Bowl's coming up, or playoffs coming up, this matchup is coming up. Well, who's the matchup between? Oh, it's not between the Cowboys and the Washington team. No, it's against the quarterbacks of those teams, along with the other guys. To me, when you have a team that's powerful enough to get into the Super Bowl or to even make it into the playoffs, you can't do it with a one-man band. You've got to have those guys stepping up for you. And we seem to, as a nation and as a narrative for this league, we seem to put so much emphasis on these quarterbacks. So therefore, not only do they garner sometimes unwarranted leadership, unwarranted endorsements, unwarranted huge contracts, and you have brothers on the offensive line, defensive backs, linebackers who are balling out. Let me say it like this. average quarterbacks can ask for way more than they deserve just because of the position, not how good they are. So you have the emphasis on this particular person and this position, and yet you've got these players that are balling out around you, pulling you out of the fire as many times as you have been successful. So to me, I think we have gotten into this culture of, well, that's our leader. No, hell no, that's not my. I had quarterbacks on my team that were good, but I wouldn't call them my leader. You understand? I had guys on my defense that led me. And I think that when we have started with this quarterback club thing that they started back in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, to where quarterbacks are garnering, and I know it's just quarterback club, and you've got other positions in quarterback club. It started off with the premises of quarterbacks getting the preferential treatment on and off the field, giving benefit of the doubt on TV, doing broadcasts all the time. Oh, well, Aaron Rodgers threw that ball away. Well, it must have been that wide receiver ran the wrong route. That's not necessarily true. So I get kind of upset at we are changing the narrative of a team game into a popularity contest, which really sides quarterbacks to get more money than they really should be getting. And this is coming from a former union rep.
And, Bill, let me make 2 points before we go to break. And just talking about what Everson said, you know, I understand Tom Brady. I understand his value, right? But that Tampa defense pulled his butt out of that last championship game in the conference. He threw 3 interceptions, right?
Todd Bowles.
3 in a row.
Todd Bowles.
Right, exactly. And then my other point is when you got to be careful with these quarterback contracts. Look what's going on in Houston right now with Deshaun Watson. Suddenly, he's upset, and he wants out, right? Well, to cut him or release him now, before June 1, it would cost Houston $67 million in dead money. Do you think it's any coincidence that the new GM said, no, we don't want to get rid of him? And if they trade him, it's $21.6 million in dead money. So that's why the price for trading one of these quarterbacks, you get so much back because of the money dump that's involved in this whole thing. So that has a lot to do with what's going on with some of these trades. But you got to be careful with these quarterbacks because they get upset and then they basically hold up the entire franchise, right? It's like, okay, I got to have my way. I want to pick the GM. I want to pick the head coach. And if you don't acquiesce to them and you give in, I'll guarantee you, and Everson knows this, the line starts out the door at the owner's office, right? Okay, I'm next. I'm not happy. J.J. Watt, I want to go play for somebody that wins. This ain't the NBA, right? You cannot manipulate the salary cap the way you can in the NBA. It costs.
You got a lot of personnel to deal with in this football.
So you better be sure you are right on the quarterback and how you structure the deal.
Okay, so let me tease the rest of the show this way.
All right.
All right, we've got a big news story of the week. Jared Goff traded for Matthew Stafford. We've got Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
See that? Listen to that. What I just say? What I just say?
All right.
You're killing me, Bill.
Here's a little comparison. Jared Goff against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sunday before Thanksgiving, completed 39 out of 51 passes for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 27-24 Rams win that made the Rams 7-3 on the season. What Everson was talking about earlier, the Rams were actually playing very well at that point of the season, okay? The next week, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs go to that same stadium at Tampa, and Patrick Mahomes was 37 out of 49 for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns, same as Goff, in a 27-24 Kansas City win over Tampa Bay. The exact same score as the Rams win the week before. Here we are 2 months later. Jared Goff is headed to Detroit. Patrick Mahomes is headed back to Tampa for Super Bowl 55. A Super Bowl that is being called by CBS analyst Tony Romo a generational matchup of quarterbacks. Everson, this would be like Michael Jordan against LeBron James in an NBA Finals. We've got much more to come here on Mick Shots, including a trip back to Tampa, 1991, a trip down memory lane with Everson Walls, when Mick Shots continues in a moment.
Hey there, Cowboys fans. With Tide Cleaners at-home pickup and delivery, cleaning your clothes has never been more convenient. Simply sign up at your local store, set out your dirty clothes, and one of our Tide Cleaners professionals will come directly to your home for a totally contactless experience. Your clean garments will be returned promptly the next scheduled delivery day, so skip the errand and enjoy life, not laundry. Visit TideCleaners.com or your local store to sign up for Tide Cleaners at-home pickup and delivery today.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Grab some OtterBox gear and get ready for hanging with the boys. From rugged venture coolers to tough as nails elevation tumblers, we've got what you need to keep your game day drinks frosty and your football feast ice cold. And with cases, screen protectors, and power accessories, you can defend your phone and stay connected to every play. Gear up at OtterBox.com and amp up the fun of every Cowboys game. That's OtterBox.com.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Back to Mick Shots.
Looking for something to change up your dinner routine? Help support local Frisco businesses by choosing one of over 30 restaurants at the Star District. For information on delivery, takeout, curbside pickup, and dine-in options, visit thestardistrict.com. As we welcome you back here to Mick Shots, Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola getting you ready for the Super Bowl 55 matchup. It's Mahomes versus Brady. Everson, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Let's go back in time. Mickey, to a time, it was a little while ago, but it was the good old days when we weren't talking about quarterback matchups in a Super Bowl. We were talking about cornerback matchups in a Super Bowl in Tampa, 1991. Take us back in time, Mickey.
Yes, absolutely. So if my math is right, that's 30 years ago, right? Kind of an anniversary here. It was Super Bowl 25, I believe it was, January 27th, 1991.
30 years ago.
And one Everson Walls, playing for the New York Football Giants, went into Tampa Stadium against the Buffalo Bills in that Super Bowl. And I just kind of stumbled across this. It was a 2019 victory for the Giants. And for some reason, I don't know what I was looking up, but I found this quote from Bill Belichick after the game, and he would have been the Giants' defensive coordinator in that game. And Belichick was quoted as saying, "We wouldn't have won the game if Walls didn't make that tackle." And I was at the game, by the way. I was covering it. As a matter of fact, when Scott Norwood was kicking the field goal at the end to try to win it, that he missed, it was right on deadline for the newspaper for the Times-Herald. And everybody else had time to go down, right, to go do interviews. I was right on deadline, and I remember standing in my seat, leaning out the window of the press box to watch this field goal to see if it was going to be good or not, right? That was my memory of that game. But what Belichick was talking about was with a minute 48 left in the game, Buffalo was on their 19-yard line. It was 3rd and inches, and they tried a kind of counter handoff to Thurman Thomas, who went 22 yards, and had not one Everson Walls made the tackle on that play, Thurman Thomas looks like he's going for a touchdown. From the video I saw, when you see the play, there is nobody behind Everson Walls. If he doesn't make that tackle, and Belichick went on to say also afterwards, that was the play of the game. And I think we have video of it. We might be able to show at least the tackle, along with afterwards, after Scott Norwood missed the field goal, Everson Walls making his celebration that ended up on the cover of Sports Illustrated, by the way. And as a matter of fact, I want to show you what I got here. This is the game program from that Super Bowl. And so I'm looking through it to see where's Everson Walls' picture and everything.
I
and
do not have that, Spags.
Well, you know what? I've got 2 of them if and when we ever do this show together again, right? But the weird thing was, if you remember, there was only 1 week between the game. There was not 2 weeks. So everything in this program had nothing to do with either team playing in the game. I'm looking through it. I'm going, what the hell, right? And then I reminded myself that they won in San Francisco on a Sunday and flew all night to Tampa and got in early on Monday morning. So I just thought we'd ask Everson, so do you remember the play the way I described it, and where did you line up, and what was going through your mind on that snap?
No, it was, at that time, Buffalo was the greatest show on turf, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were balling. They had blown out Miami and Oakland in the consecutive playoff games, like 50-something to something, 44 to nothing. I mean, they were balling. I think that year we were the only ones to keep Buffalo under 20 points all season. I could be wrong about that in 1990.
I think you're right. Yes.
But they beat us 17 to like 14 in Jersey. And so we knew what we had in store for us. So here we are, 2 minutes to go, basically a 2-minute drill. And what we had done all game long was to keep them at bay. No big plays, because big plays are going to kill you, and they're going to kill your morale. So Belichick had us play in that fashion. The only thing that surprised me about that game was the fact that he had me calling the plays the entire game. We played pretty much nickel and dime the entire game, so I was back at safety, which is where I usually am on nickel and dime. So they're going no huddle on Buffalo's side. We needed someone to be in the secondary to make those calls. He chose me. I think I was the oldest one back there at the time. And so during that play, during that drive, the handoff was easy to see. That's the beginning of that amoeba defense, right? We talk about that amoeba defense Belichick comes up with. Well, we only had 1 defensive lineman in the game, so when the handoff was made, the hole was easy to make. We only had 3 down players, only 1 was a D lineman. So he's coming right at me. I saw it right away, so I never took my drop to go to cover 2. When I recognized what was happening, I wanted to make sure it wasn't a flea flicker, so I just go running up. But I saw where he had already crossed the line of scrimmage. I'm coming up, and according to Thurman Thomas, I talked to him like almost 10 years after this play. He said he never saw me, Spags. He said he never saw me. And that's one of those things about football to where you can be too smart sometimes. He didn't expect me to be there because they knew what the defense would be. We were predictable. It's a cover 2. All he's thinking is, once I get by those linebackers, my eyes are going to where I can score a touchdown because the safeties are going to be half the field. Well, I wasn't half the field. I chose not to because I recognized it, and when I came up and made the play, although it was 22 yards down the field, he covered that ground very quickly. I did not know it was 22 yards, Spags. He covered that ground extremely quickly. Next thing you know, he's on me, and I make a pretty unspectacular tackle. It's just the fact that we were able to bring him down. And so I didn't know what was behind me. You mentioned that. Parcells was asked what would happen if Everson Walls misses that play. And they asked, well, do you think Myron Guyton would have caught him? And they said, yes, maybe in the parking lot. That's what Parcells' response was. So he was thinking about how you were thinking, Spags, in regards to that game, in regards to that play.
So how fitting is this, you guys, for Everson Walls' career? You know, not recruited to college, wasn't drafted in the NFL, had to fight for everything he gets. So I read about the play, and I said, okay, I got to go find it. So I found the official play-by-play of the Super Bowl. And I'm going through here looking for the play. And all I was looking for was a Thurman Thomas run and an Everson Walls tackle, right? And I'm going through, and the game's over, and well, where's the tackle?
Yep.
So I looked, and they credited the tackle to not 28, 58, Carl Banks.
He's on the other side of the
field. He wasn't even in the play. I said, well, maybe he jumped in and had an assist, and they gave. No, it wasn't. It was a solo diving tackle. But Everson Walls, if you ever go back in history to look for your tackle, it is not on the play-by-play sheet.
I got one more thing for you, Spags, because you've got the official play-by-play. I think it was Dan Dierdorf.
Yes.
Was the color commentator. And, you know, once again, this whole quarterback thing, there was never an emphasis on how important the tackle was during the play because all they wanted to talk about was how Jim Kelly was in position to lead them down the field. So just the tone deafness of some commentators can be, you know, in different ways. Dick Lynch, the former Dick Lynch, the great Dick Lynch, the commentator for the New York Giants, he ended up actually giving me if you go back and listen to his broadcast of that play, he literally calls it out right there. He said, I might have saved the game. He said that right there. So it's just funny how you have different commentators looking at these games. But that was old school. When you're talking about Bill, there was no Jeff Hostetler versus Jim Kelly necessarily in that game. The hype wasn't the way it is right now. And if you want to go back to how the mentality was in New York, MVP of our season and the MVP of that game was a running back in O.J. Anderson. So that's why I know that was 1991 and it is what it is today. But nothing to me has changed. Defense still wins ball games. And that's how we ended up dominating that entire season. We got more cheers for an 80-yard touchdown. We got more cheers for a sack on 3rd and 2 and turning the ball over than we would get for an 80-yard touchdown. That's the mentality that they had in New Jersey at that time.
And you know, in the video I saw, and I thought it was Dan Dierdorf's voice. It might have been it was pieced together, so it could have been the radio guy for the Giants at the time. But they did say a great open field tackle by Everson Walls.
That's Dick Lynch. That would be Dick Lynch right there. That's right.
And then, of course, what I remember from that was that Scott Norwood missed field goal. Okay, but the 20-19 game, and then from that season too, Everson, you talk about defense. Here we are 30 years later, and what sticks in my mind is the 15-13 win in the conference championship game over San Francisco.
Man.
You know,
And they kept Joe Montana off the field, by the way, and that was the difference in that game.
Yeah, we knocked him off the field by the time the game was over.
Yeah. And one other memory from that Super Bowl covering it was during the Gulf War, by the way. And I remember before the game, those Black Hawk helicopters were flying over the stadium. They had cleared the airspace. They were circling the stadium, and they had the side doors to the helicopter open, and you could see the guns pointing out that door. And it was it was chilling to see that. And I remember the national anthem was pretty emotional also that game. And the other thing I remember is I was able to get 2 tickets to the game, and my sister brought my dad to the game, and he got to watch a Super Bowl in the stadium. He had failing eyesight, but he could hear it, and my sister could interpret to him, and it was a pretty neat day that Sunday for me.
That's nice, Spags. That's good stuff right there, brother. And he got to see the Giants, hear and possibly see the Giants kick ass.
Right.
So that was a great day for everybody all the way around, I would say.
And now we go back to Tampa, a new stadium, for this Super Bowl 55 on Sunday.
Hey guys, we got to take a break. I've lost contact with you, and so I am going to toss it to break.
Yes.
Okay, I've lost contact.
But no, when you think about it, Spags, that game, the way the security was in that game, that was the first game where we were. It depicted how we had our security evolve in consequent games.
Yep.
Long lines, extra security, extra wanding, and everything. I remember my family was there. Came for the game, and my sister was sick, my mom was sick, and my mom decided not to come. And my sister, she braved it out, and she almost fainted in line because it was hot.
It was hot, and it was a long line. It took a while to get through.
In line, that long line, and she was she was able to make it in by the grace of God. But that's how much they wanted to see their baby brother kick some ass.
So there's your walk down memory lane, and we'll continue with Mick Shots in a moment.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Dear, it's 1908. Don't you think we should get electricity?
And stop using candles to see at night.
It's just electricity lights up the room fast. It's more reliable than candles blowing out, and people seem to love it nationwide.
Well, candles are...
Dear, did you just run into the wall?
Nope. May I have a new candle, please?
Historically, switching to new technology is a no-brainer. Today, it's AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. Switch to AT&T 5G. It's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan. May not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Back to Mick Shots.
Let Formation, meet all your professional needs and channel the winning business tradition of the Dallas Cowboys and the Jones family. Enjoy custom business events developed exclusively by Cowboys front office staff, exclusive amenities, and so much more. Join our community and enjoy the home field advantage of having your business address on Cowboys Way. Get more details or book a tour at formation@thestar.com.
All right, our final 15 minutes or so of Mick Shots before Super Bowl Sunday. And it is Hall of Fame Saturday coming up on Saturday. Of course, traditionally, in a normal Super Bowl week, on Saturday, the Hall of Fame committee all convene on the Saturday before the game. They spend all day discussing the candidates and in person, of course, in the Super Bowl city. And then on Saturday night, on what has now turned into Super Bowl Saturday night, the Hall of Fame class is presented. But late that afternoon, David Baker, the president of the Hall of Fame, will go by the hotel rooms of the finalists and inform them that they have made it into the Hall of Fame. I think there's a 100% chance that Drew Pearson is going to go into the Hall of Fame and going to find out.
Don't jinx it, Bill, please, man. We've had enough trauma these days.
And they did a virtual discussion a couple of weeks ago. There was a fan vote that ended on January 31st. And Mickey, I'm unclear on how much discussion they still need to do on Saturday, if any. I think that they went ahead and voted at the end of that discussion a couple of weeks ago, but I may be wrong. But I think David Baker has made it a habit, even last year when he surprised Jimmy Johnson on the set at Fox, where he wants to make the presentation to people. I just would not be surprised if David Baker winds up at Drew Pearson's doorstep here in Dallas and makes a presentation to him at some point later in the week.
Well, I would imagine it's going to be a virtual knock on the door, because I can't imagine they're flying all these guys into Tampa for starters, and they're probably...
Yeah, they're not doing that.
Yeah, they'll virtually hook up. But he's the lone senior finalist. And normally those guys get in. They just kind of rubber stamp it. But as you know, Drew knows, the year before when they were inducting the Centennial class, it looked like he was going to get in, and he didn't get in after a 37-year wait. And check out these stats on Drew, who played from 1973 through 83 with the Cowboys. We know the history. We know the big plays he made, 11-year career. But here's the background on this. And how he didn't get in yet still astounds me. There were 22 first-team all-decade selections in 1970s. 21 of them have a bust in Canton. The only one that doesn't, it's Drew Pearson. He's also the only first-teamer that had never been discussed as a finalist after all these years. And check this out. From 1930 through 2010, a span of 8 decades, there were 17 wide receivers selected first-team all-decade. 16 of them, they have busts in Canton. And again, Pearson was the only first-team wide receiver not enshrined. And there were 6 second-team all-decade receivers from 70s, 80s, 90s. They all have busts in the Hall of Fame, except for Drew Pearson. So this is a long overdue award for Drew. And I heard an interesting comment, and I don't know, Everson, if you'll agree with this since you've been close, but Chris Carter was being interviewed on NFL Network. I believe it was maybe it was Friday, and he was another guy that waited a while to get in. And so they asked him, when you finally get in, did you feel vindicated? And he said no. He goes, once you're in and you know you're in this exclusive group, it doesn't matter how long it took you to get in, you're in. And he goes, and you have justification that you are one of the greatest players in the National Football League. And I think he mentioned something like there's been 25,000 guys to play in the NFL over all these years, and there's only 300 and I don't have the number off the top of my head, 350 people in the Hall of Fame, so it's in a pretty exclusive group. And as mad as Drew was after being eliminated this previous time, I would think once he's in, he's going to be very grateful.
I think he was already pretty grateful even when he realized he was the only senior guy that was up. He was even smiling then. I think that was around a month ago or so. And it was good to see him smiling in regards to Hall of Fame as opposed to what we would call. You know, when you look at this stuff, and it's always, you know more than I would, Spags, because you're a reporter. I don't know if you're a voter or not, but when you have a team like the Cowboys, where does the failure come from in regards to recognition? Drew Pearson not only, and you may have brought this up, there's a lot of stats you brought up, Spag. Drew Pearson was the last, not just first teamer all decade, I think all the second teamers got in before he did. At least from the wide receiver position, because Harold Carmichael was the second team all-decade wide receiver. And he got in before Drew Pearson just this past time. So it was almost as if it was so glaring of an admission, it almost seemed to be personal, of course. As a former Cowboy and Cowboy fan, you think it's personal by the other Hall of Fame voters. We've always had this rumor that the Cowboys were getting snubbed because the other Hall of Fame voters never liked the American team moniker that was placed on us by I think Tex Schramm or whoever. There's always that belief by Cowboy fans and former Cowboy players. You know, you look at a guy like T.O. Would you say that no matter how long it took T.O. to get in, is he actually happy to be in now? Is he a participant? Because when you have your own ceremony separate from the Hall of Fame ceremony, I think you're making a clear statement. I don't think that has ever happened in the history of voting and accepting Pro Football Hall of Fame busts. So I don't know, man. I think that Drew's omission is glaring. I can go down the line. You're looking at Howie Long in the Hall of Fame versus Harvey Martin not being in the Hall of Fame. You know, those type of glaring omissions are just too much for me to ignore. I could start fussing about myself, but I'm not, because I'm still upset about the other guys that came before me that should be in the NFL Hall of Fame. It took Mel Renfro, it took Rayfield Wright to the end of their tenure, am I right, Spags?
Yes.
To be voted into the Hall of Fame. Mel Renfro was All-Pro almost every year, not to mention the fact that he played in at least 4 Super Bowls. Rayfield Wright, if I'm not mistaken, he gave up maybe 10 sacks to Roger Staubach or whatever quarterback Cowboys had to their blind side. That's the toughest position. And yet he has to wait till his tenure's almost up. So I don't understand.
Bob Hayes.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Bob Hayes, because you know what? That occurred, I want to say it occurred the year the Super Bowl was in Houston, and he made it to the final 7. It was and he made it to the finals, and they could have inducted 7 guys, right? And he basically got voted out. He didn't get voted in, and he didn't go. And excuse me for going down memory lane again, but he didn't get in. Go. He didn't get in until the Super Bowl. I believe it was the year the Super Bowl was in Tampa the next time, It was the 2009, January of 2009, and the reason I remember this is Thursday night before the game, I wrote this column on all the reasons why you want Bob Hayes in the Hall of Fame and how injustice it was that he wasn't in. And it was a Thursday night, and my mom passed away the day before the game. She lived in Florida, and I was fortunate enough to be there. I was with her when she passed away, and then the game was on Sunday. But Bob finally got selected. He last played, I want to say it was 1974. This was 2009. Bob Hayes changed the game.
Changed it.
And the way I looked at the Hall of Fame, it's not all about stats. I can tell you Drew Pearson played 11 years, had 489 receptions, 48 touchdowns, all this stuff. But the job of the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to preserve the history of the game. Not the statistical history, but the history of the game. In 30 years, will anybody remember, or we won't be here to tell the story about the Hail Mary, about him catching that pass? So that needs to be preserved in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The same thing with Bob Hayes. He changed the game. His speed changed the game. But there's going to be a point where people that saw him play know what he did, won't be here to relay that story. It needs to be preserved in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I think what happens these days, Everson, is number one, you're right about the East Coast bias against the Cowboys. And number two, the voting committee has turned over so greatly that people voting now did not see guys play in the 70s. They didn't see guys play in the 60s. They might not have seen you play in the 80s.
Let me interrupt you on that. Because that is a factor, correct. But my thing is this. If you accept, and I think I may have said this on the show, if you accept that position as a younger player coming in, younger writer, reporter coming in, and you're going to be voting on this, you do a disservice to your job and all the other voters around you if you don't do your job, if you don't do your research. That's what you're there for. Oh, well, I can only vote on guys that I saw play. Well, how stupid is that? Then you shouldn't be a voter. We have access to almost any type of information that we need on this little box thing I got right in front of me. And you're telling me you don't have the ability to go back and do your research. You don't have access to all of the NFL films that you need to have access to vote on Drew Pearson, to vote on a Harold Carmichael, Rayfield Wright. Even go back further than that. That's your job. If it's too much for you, then get out. Because you got a lot of work to do when you're talking about salvaging these guys' relationship that they fought tooth and nail for, that they shed so much blood for, not just for themselves and for their family, but for their teammates and for this league that the Hall of Fame voters are supposed to be representing. So it's a connection that you can't break. And even, I say this, Spags, and I may be out of line, I usually am. When you've got Tex Schramm and guys like that controlling not just our negotiations and our salaries and our reputation, but you've also got certain Hall of Fame voters for the Cowboys back in the day that was colluding, I guess, with the owners. Sometimes that memory that Tex has, because he had one like a freaking elephant, those grudges are sometimes displayed through the lack of Dallas Cowboys in the Hall of Fame. You talk to, I don't even want to say their names, but they have actually said to me that they have been informed that the pushback from some Hall of Famers comes from within. So we're being cannibalistic as Cowboys. We're eating our own. Let the reins go. Talk about what Harvey Martin did as a player, how many sacks he had. The fact that he had so many, they took away 2, if I'm not mistaken. All of these things, to me, are a part of a legacy that is really a shame here in Dallas. And it doesn't start in New York and East Coast necessarily, Spags. It started right here before we even got to Valley Ranch. That was over there at Forest Lane and Abrams, where I used to drive my raggedy car up there to practice every day.
Which was a little bit better than your raggedy bike, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we got a minute left. We got 1 minute left. I got one more thing.
All right,
Everson,
go.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl, Brady or Mahomes?
Can I just say the Kansas City Chiefs, please? Can I just say that? Can I be politically incorrect and just say Kansas City Chiefs?
Judging from the first time
what do you think, Mickey?
The first time they met, Tyreek Hill is going to win the Super Bowl.
That's exactly right. In fact, that leads me to my parting comment. Do yourself a favor if you've got NFL Game Pass and go back and watch the Week 12 matchup between the Bucs and the Chiefs. Between Brady and Mahomes. And that is a great way to prepare for this game, and it's going to be very interesting to see what Todd Bowles has up his sleeve this time instead of maybe the single high safety that Mahomes was facing last time. When Tyreek Hill in that game, he had over 200 yards receiving in the first quarter of that game, it wound up being now. Bowles made adjustments as that game went on, and it wound up being a good game, 27-24. Kansas City won. But so you're taking the Chiefs, Everson. Mickey,
yes, sir.
You're taking who?
The Chiefs.
Chiefs. And I'll take the Chiefs also. So there you go. We're in agreement.
Oh, we're picking against Tom Brady. Oh, no.
No, we're picking against the Bucs, damn it. Everybody stop.
All right, that does it. And I got the score. It's going to be 20-19. Ryan Suckup's going to miss a field goal on the last play of the game. 30 years after Scott Norwood. All right, we'll talk at you again next Tuesday here on Mick Shots.
Go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!